Compact bone is made of cylindrical structures called osteons, also called haversian systems. The osteon is the functional and structural unit of mature compact bone. They're oriented parallel to the diaphysis of the bone, so they run the same direction as the diaphysis. Now, when you look at these, they look sort of like a bullseye target or the rings of a tree. So there are several components of an osteon. There's the central canal or the haversian canal. That's a channel that runs through the center of the osteon. So it runs parallel to the long axis. So here you can see there's the blood vessels and the nerve that run through that osteon that supply the tissues of that osteon. Now, the tree rings, or if you prefer the bullseye, the rings are called lamella. So they're rings of bone tissue that surround the central canal and they form up most of the osteon. Osteocytes are the mature bone cells that are in the little spaces. Now those little spaces are called lacuna. So the osteocytes maintain the bone matrix. They hang out in the lacuna when they get trapped in the bone matrix that they made. There are tiny little canals called canaliculi. They're actually channels within the bone tissue that extend from each lacuna through the lamella and connect other lacuna and the central canal. So the canaliculi house cytoplasmic extensions that project off the cytoplasm of the osteocyte. This allows these cells to contact and communicate. So nutrients, minerals, waste products, gases are transported through these cytoplasmic extensions that go through those little canaliculi. And this allows exchange between osteocytes and the blood vessels that are in that central canal. Still looking at the microscopic anatomy of compact bone, there are other structures that are not part of the osteon, such as the perforating Volkmann's canals. So they contain blood vessels and nerves like the central canals, but they run perpendicular to the central canals. Okay, so your central canals are here. Okay, so those are the blood vessels and nerves in your central canal. Your perpendicular running ones, so they run at a 90-degree angle to the central canal. These are your perforating or Volkmann's canals. Those allow, of course, communication between multiple central canals within different osteons and allows a channel for vascularization and innervation between multiple osteons. Your circumferential, that word didn't come out very well. Anyway, these are lamella, layers of bone that are on the circumference. So they're not part of the osteons. So they are just inside the periosteum, as you see here, and just inside the endosteum, as you see here. And then you have something called interstitial lamella. Now remember, lamella are just the rings of bone. Now, these are also not a part of the osteon, but they are either pieces of bone that are between the osteons or what's left over. So here you can see right there between the bone, but also you have some of these when bone is being resorbed and perhaps the entire osteon wasn't broken down. So it sort of looks like it's crumbling away, or as your book says, looks like a bite has been taken out of the osteon. Spongy bone is not made up of osteons. It's made up of trabeculae. So trabeculae forms a bridge of rods and plates of bone. Bone marrow fills in between the trabeculae in the spaces, like the holes in a sponge. When a segment of spongy bone is looked at microscopically, you can see parallel lamella that are composed of bone matrix. Between the lamella are osteocytes trapped in lacuna. They have numerous canaliculi radiating from the lacuna, and the nutrients reach the osteocytes by diffusing through cytoplasmic extensions of these osteocytes, which are within those canaliculi that open onto the surface. Now this crisscrossing of bars and plates of the small bony pieces gives great resistance to stress in many different directions, by distributing the stress or the weight throughout the entire framework because everything is connected.